Hey guys, what's up? So it's time to pick a penguin. So we've got a card that's coming into the collection pack 2020. For those who aren't familiar, this is a pack with supports that from cards in the anime that have never so far reached the main game. So these are anime style cards, and this is actually quite an old card from the anime. This was back in the Noah arc during the Battle City tournament, where they were just heading off to the finals tournament, but they were sidetracked by Noah, who kind of ended up putting them into a virtual world. This card is actually used by Crump, one of the big five, one of the members who tried to take control of Seto Kaiba's company. Originally, that was Gozaboro's company, but Seto Kaiba actually outwitted him by kind of tricking him. This is Penguin Tornado. It's a water aqua effect, level 3, with 550 attack and 300 defense. And its effects are, you can only use the second effect of this card's name once per turn. First, it can attack directly. Second, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one level 6 or lower monster your opponent controls, take control of it until the end phase, but negate its effect. Also, it cannot declare an attack. And its third effect is at the end of the damage step. If this card attacked, destroy it. So this was actually used very similarly in the anime by Crump. He used the effect of his Deckmaster special ability of the Nightmare Penguin to increase its attack by 200 to make it 750, and it could still also do the same thing where it attacked directly. This was a duel between Crump and Taya Gardner. So what he would do is he would attack directly and it would destroy itself, and then he actually used a card which brought this back and did that again the next turn. Now, this card might not seem that powerful, and yes, unfortunately because of the timing of it, being released so late, it's not as effective as it could be. There are plenty of support cards which actually work in combination with this. For example, Aegis of the Ocean Lord. It's a trap card which protects your monsters from destruction by battle or card effects until the end of the turn, so long as they're level 3 or lower, which this Penguin Tornado is level 3, so it would protect it from its own effect. You could also actually use this in combination with the equipped spell Power of the Guardian. What that would do is it would actually boost this monster's attack by 500 and give it a counter. This counter, what it does is every time your opponent or you try and destroy it, you can remove the counter to negate the destruction. So essentially every time it attacks, it could use its attack with 500 extra attack points, use its effect, which would kind of destroy itself, but get rid of the counter instead, so you can actually keep this on the field. The downside of using that kind of strategy is it's a massive target. Unless you had cards which could prevent, I think like Pixie Ring is one of those cards which prevents your weakest monster from being attacked if you've got 2 or more. Unless you've got something like that, or you've got something that could negate battle damage, such as Wabuku, Spirit Barrier, something. I think there's Alexis's card, Hallowed Life Barrier, which is similar to Wabuku. But in that case, you actually have to discard a card as well. That can also be used. As for its second effect, I am quite confused why it got this effect. I suppose sometimes Konami likes to put an additional effect into some of these monsters just to make them seem more useful. I can understand in some points why it was used for a level 6 or lower monster, especially since Taya brought out Dark Magician Girl. That was her Deckmaster, and that was obviously a level 6. So the whole idea is you could just take control of your opponent's monster. And obviously with link monsters, you could probably just link it away into a link 1. So at least you've got some sort of versatility in there. The downside of this as well, though, is it's only obviously works on level monsters. It's based off an old theme anyway, so it can't be used against link monsters. It can't be used against seas monsters. But it can be used against rituals, fusions, and synchros as they're level-based monsters. I think it's quite a useful card in some respects, but I do find it a bit strange the timing of introducing it. So this, as you can see, is Crump. He was the member of the Big Five. He was a Kyber Corp accountant who oversaw the company's finances. His backstory was more to do with him growing up in a household where he never really saw his parents. His parents were into very serious business, so they were away at work a lot, spent long hours. The few times he did see them, they didn't seem to be paying him any attention as a kid growing up. So he developed 2 fascinations. One was for numbers and accounting. The second, for some strange reason, was penguins. This is why his deck master was the Nightmare Penguin, because this is kind of his association. This is kind of what he is all about. He was seen as quite crafty and deceptive, often tricking people and making things more difficult, especially for Taya. He actually explained that the first business he ended up having was one as a kid, where he stole his neighbour's, I think it was lemonade stand, and started selling from there. And then he became one of the biggest manufacturers of lemonade in the country. He is considered to be a very highly strung and is quite temperamental. He was very much neglected as a child and isn't taken as seriously as some of the other members of the Big Five. He was not confirmed of age, but I think in the Japanese they gave him an age as 55. He's seen as being quite sadistic. What he did was as part of the condition within the duel. Some of them had conditions. For example, with Nesbit, it was all about he did a 3 versus 1 duel, but he obviously had more support and was able to draw into more cards, as otherwise that wouldn't be fair on him. In this case, with Crump, he had this situation where whomever lost life points, their body would start freezing up. They would literally start freezing from the feet upwards in ice every time they lost life points. This happened quite a few times to Taya and actually really caused her a lot of problems within the duel. This, however, barely affected Crump because being the Nightmare Penguin, he was covered in fur, and so he didn't feel anything. So this is actually a look at the deck he possessed. He had Bolt Penguin, which is I think it's got 1,100 attack. It's a vanilla monster. Flying Penguin has 1,200 attack. And Giant Red Sea Snake, which was his most powerful monster in attack, had 1,800 attack. His effect monsters were his Nightmare Penguin, with its Deck Master special ability to just boost the attack points by 200 of all his water attribute monsters. This worked well with his Penguin Torpedo. I don't remember Defender Iceberg that much, so if we have a quick look at that. I know it had quite a lot of defense points. Well, saying that, you can see it here. It's a card in the anime whose effect is when this card is normal, flip, or special summoned, you can change it to face up defense position. Other water monsters you control cannot be selected as attack targets. So it forces all of its attacks against it, and it having 2,450 defense points made it basically immune to most of Taya's attacks, with the exception of when she was able to get out a Dark Magician through Sage's Stone by having a Dark Magician girl on the field. This was part of the strategy to kind of protect his weaker monsters. We actually go back on to seeing Crump, the big 5. So again, the other cards he used were Cold Wave, which kind of prevents players from setting or activating spell or trap cards. Ocean of Regeneration, which was used to revive his Penguin torpedo. Penguin Sword, which is an equip spell which increases the attack points of his penguin monsters. Well, one equipped monster. Revenge Sacrifice, which was used as kind of his destruction. Driving Snow was used as a means of kind of defeating, well, kind of baiting destruction. So if Taya was to destroy something and it ends up being Driving Snow or something else, he would be able to destroy one of her spell traps. And Gust. I think I could see this being used in a deck, even if it's quite a niche one. At some point, it's not going to be in a competitive format, but for casual players who like the original anime, it's probably going to be better to try and attract some of them back into the game. Since this is coming out in the collection pack, it pretty much confirms, even though the main themes have already been confirmed to be Don Thousands cards, Jim Crocodile Cook, and someone else. But we'll have some of these side cards. I definitely think Defender Iceberg will come as well at some point. It might have the exact same effect as was mentioned previously, and I'd love to see what interactions and what kind of further support they might give to it. This might actually be a good thing, considering that it wasn't that long ago that we got one of Gansey's cards. We received his Hyperia card, which is one of his smaller monsters. We might in the future, in some of the additional collection packs in the coming years, get some support from some of the other characters of the Big 5. So this is always something to look forward to. What do you think of this card? Is this something you can consider using for casual use? Is there any particular deck you would like to use it with? Do you think we should still be getting some more Penguin cards? Because currently there are a few. There aren't that many to make a specific deck. Some of them were kind of in combination with characters such as Rio Castle in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal, so they can be a bit mismatched, and some of the others tend to be just the vanilla monsters. I would love to see a proper Penguin archetype created, just to give a little bit more variety. I mean, we've had snakes, we've had reptilians, we've had lots of different fish, some sea serpent support as well. But where's the love for the penguins? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below, like the video if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe.